Hello and welcome everyone. We've got some technical difficulties here we're working through, so hello and welcome. I think we are live. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Let me start the Instagram also. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Today our theme is VAWA versus the U visa. VAWA versus the U visa. Which is the better option for you? And that's a great question, so stay tuned today. We'll get into that. And so welcome. Welcome to the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thank you for being here. Thank you to everybody on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, and on Facebook. Remember, here at the Empowered Immigrant Live, we're here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. Today our theme is VAWA versus the U visa, and the question is, which is better for you? My question for you is, do you want to get a green card this year? Do you want to, leave behind the shadows this year? Is this your year to apply for some kind of immigration benefit, some kind of immigration status? Because if so, go for it. All right? Go for it. And I'd love for my firm to help you with that. I don't know if you're aware, but my firm is on a mission to win 10,000 immigration cases in the next 10 years. By 2035, we would love for your case to be one of them. All right? And so thank you for everyone who asked their questions. We have 30 minutes to discuss this topic in English, and then we'll get into it in Spanish. I do have an 11 o'clock, actually, now that I'm looking at it. So we'll be a little bit tight on time today. But still, send over your questions, and we'll address them as we get them. All right? And so, welcome. Thank you for being here. All right? Before getting into immigration law, I want to start with a small empowerment tip. I like to do that. My empowerment tip today is to work on your attitude. All right? Everybody's attitude, my attitude, everybody's attitude could improve, couldn't it? In my opinion, people who are optimistic, people who are cheerful, people who are friendly, people who have a sense of humor that uplifts others, they're easier to work with, they're easier to get along with, and in my experience, they're more likely to be successful. All right? So if you want more success in your life, work on your attitude. It's a good thing to work on. Where do you find yourself thinking, oh man, bummer, why me? I don't want to do that. Change that thought. Change it. Change that thought. Decide to think about it differently. And instead think, hey, of course they want me to do this thing. I'm the best person for that job. All right? Maybe it's not my favorite thing to do, but I'm glad that they chose me for it. Because if they chose me for it, it means I'm good at it. And if I do it enough and develop strength in it, heck, maybe later I could train other people to do that thing, and so that I can move on to bigger and better things in the future. All right? It's like finding ways to view what we need to do as an opportunity, not as like something that drags us down. If you do that, if you have a positive attitude about everything you need to do, more people will want to work with you. If you have a positive attitude, if needed, more people will want to help you. All right? And it shows up. Yes, in my opinion, it shows up in an immigration case as well. It's like it helps everything. Work on your attitude. That's my empowerment tip. Hope it was helpful. If it was, if you see that, hey, you could take something from that, leave us a note in the comments. Like, where could you work? Where could you work on your attitude to make a difference for your life? All right, thank you. Thanks for being here. So now I want to get into the legal topic for today, which, remember, it's VAWA versus the U visa. Which is better for you? And before we get into it, first of all, thanks to everyone, again, on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I'm Otis Landerholm. I'm grateful to be with you here today. It is the 13th of October of 2022. And so welcome and thank you. as we talk about VAWA and the U visa, these are sensitive topics, all right? Both of these types of cases are cases where people who are immigrants have been the victims of some kind of abuse or crime or attack or assault or domestic violence or like bad things here in the U.S., all right? And so, that is what we're talking about. And these are the two most common immigration options for people who are immigrants in the United States and who have been the victims of these types of things: harm, abuse, crimes, attacks, assaults, domestic violence, cruelty, extortion, blackmail, all of this stuff, okay? And so I want to talk about it. So here's the thing. VAWA versus U visa. VAWA versus U visa. Sometimes VAWA is better depending on your situation. Sometimes the U visa is better depending on your situation. And sometimes you can do both. And sometimes both is best. All right? So let's get into it. All right? VAWA, Violence Against Women Act. It's good for women and men. It doesn't matter about that. The name of it, though, is the Violence Against Women Act. That's what VAWA stands for. It is limited to the spouses and children of United States citizens and green card holders. So if you are not the spouse or the child of a United States citizen or a green card holder, VAWA will not work for you. Okay? Unless you got a divorce from that person. You could be the ex-spouse and file it within 2 years of that divorce. Okay? So for VAWA, you have to show that you married, if you're the spouse, you've got to show that you married your spouse in quote-unquote good faith. It wasn't just for immigration purposes. You intended to have a marriage together. You must also show you're a person of good moral character. And yes, you must show that you were the victim of abuse or extreme cruelty by your U.S. citizen or your green card holding spouse. Okay? If you could show those things, then you could get VAWA. VAWA is much faster than the U visa. VAWA allows a person often to go straight into the green card process, unlike the U visa where you have to wait 3 years with a U visa in order to apply for a green card. VAWA is better because you don't need a police report, all right? If you can just explain how you were the victim of extreme cruelty or abuse, physical or other types of abuse, then you can be eligible for it. You do not need to show that you cooperated with law enforcement, all right? But VAWA has, you can't waive as much. The U visa is better in certain other instances, okay? So the U visa is better. Remember, the U visa isn't just for domestic violence and domestic-related abuse in the marriage. U visas work if, some random person that you've never even met before assaults you, right? Holds you up at gunpoint, kidnaps you, those types of crimes, right? There's a list of the qualifying crimes. It's a much broader list than VAWA, okay? So U visas are better in that way. U visas also work. Imagine you were the victim of domestic violence, but imagine your spouse wasn't a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, all right? Well, you can qualify for a U visa, but you wouldn't qualify for VAWA because VAWA is limited. Your spouse must be a U.S. citizen or a green card holder. Does that make sense? Okay? So U visas are better, for example, if your spouse was undocumented or anything besides a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, had TPS or DACA or something like that. U visas are better if the crime wasn't domestic violence, but it was some other crime that you were the victim of, kidnapping, assault, armed robbery, blackmail, whatever it was. U visas are also better because they can waive more than VAWA can, and a lot of people don't get this nuance. If a person has what they call a permanent bar, or a deportation bar, or a criminal record, or a false claim to U.S. citizenship, or some other like immigration issue from the past, many of those things can be waived by VAWA, many of those things can be waived, forgiven by the U visa, but they cannot be waived by VAWA. And so you want to understand that. Does that make sense? I'll say that again. Many inadmissibility issues can be waived by the U visa, but cannot legally be waived by VAWA. Does that make sense? And so that's something that you want to be aware of. And so we've had clients. I had a client, I won this case years ago, where a local nonprofit was like, yeah, you're eligible for VAWA. Great, you're eligible for VAWA. And they took her case and they won her VAWA case. But the problem was that she had a permanent bar. And so she won VAWA, but she will never win a green card through VAWA. She was very frustrated. She came into our office. She's like, look, I already won my VAWA case, but I can't get a green card because I have a permanent bar. Why are we doing this? And I'm like, look, I'm sorry. Your status, your better option was a U visa. Your better option was a U visa. So it's good that you won VAWA. You can get a work permit through VAWA. Sometimes that's the type of situation where it's best to do both. We can get a work permit through VAWA quicker, all right? And we can get you a green card, like green card eligibility long term through the waivers that come through a U visa. Sometimes both is best. All right? So I wanted to just make sense of that issue. I hope that was helpful. I hope that was useful. So what's the conclusion? The conclusion is, which is better, VAWA or the U visa? Answer, it depends. It depends on your situation. Are you married? Have you been the victim of abuse in a relationship with a United States citizen or a green card holder? Right? Have you been in that marriage within the last 2 years? Has it been more than 2 years since the divorce? If so, U visa is your only option. All right? Did you cooperate with law enforcement? Did you file a police report? Those are requirements for the U visa. They're not requirements for VAWA. Which inadmissibility issues do you have? All right? Have you only entered the U.S. without permission once? If so, VAWA can fix that. But have you entered and left and re-entered unlawfully? Do you have other issues? Fraud? Have you helped somebody else enter the U.S. unlawfully? Alien smuggling? Have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen before? False claims to citizenship? Those things cannot be waived with VAWA, but they can be waived. It's not automatic. It's not easy, but they can be waived in a U visa process. Okay? And so you want to understand that. Knowing all of these things can help you determine which process is best for you. All right? And so really, in my best advice to somebody, if you're wondering, hey, which is my best type of case, VAWA or U visa, or other things, there are other things too, all right, for children, SIJS, right, T visas, if you were the victim of human trafficking, there's lots of other options out there. My best advice is, if you're wondering, okay, what about me? What's the best in my situation? Let's do a consultation. That's what our consultation process is all about, okay? And to do that, hey, we're just a phone call away, folks. We're just a phone call away. We'd love to do that. We'd love to meet you, understand your situation, and help you figure this out in more depth. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. Hope it was useful. Thanks to everyone for being here. Shout out to my friends here on Instagram. Let's see. Morontamaira, hello. Gaga Stikal, hello. RMG, hello. 007, hello. Awesome. So thanks for being here on Instagram. Hello to everybody on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. I'm grateful. I'm really honored to be here with you today. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. Let me get into your questions, all right? And if you have a question, hey, send it over. I have received a few questions, but not too many. I'll try to address them all. My first question today comes from Khalil. Khalil, you say I'm an asylee, but my green card application was denied twice because I was a member of the MQM. All right, this is Pakistan, if I'm not mistaken. MQM, political organization that later was put on the list of terrorist organizations. So be careful, all right? So, and then you say, now my wife has become a U.S. citizen. Please guide me further. Khalil, thank you for asking that question. First of all, you are not alone. You are in a unfortunately a common situation, and I'd love to meet with you and discuss it in much more depth. Your green card application was denied twice. Sometimes when a green card application is denied, they actually forward that application to immigration court and actually put you into deportation proceedings to remove your asylum status. I don't know if that's your situation, but I've seen that in MQM cases from Pakistan, and so you want to be cautious about that. I'd love to request all your FOIAs, review all the records, see how we could advise you in that situation. Sometimes it depends on how you participated in the MQM and other factors, all right? So Khalil, thank you for asking. That's a very country-specific question. I'd love to guide you through it. Give us a call. Our number is here below the screen. We'd love to do a consultation, walk you through it, okay? All right, my next question comes from Mereoni. I hope I'm saying that right. Mereoni, hello and welcome. Thank you. So you ask, does VAWA include being abused by a client who has dementia because of being out of status, very difficult to find another job? Interesting. Does VAWA include being abused by a client? So no. VAWA is if you're abused by a spouse who's a U.S. citizen or a green card holder. All right? So unless your client is your spouse, which it doesn't sound like that's the case, then it wouldn't be VAWA. VAWA would not apply to you. But if you were abused, harmed, mistreated, threatened, something like that, and if you called the police to get that person arrested, then you could be eligible for a U visa. But it also doesn't sound like that's the situation. A client has dementia. Maybe they didn't even know what they were doing. Maybe it sounds like a kind of a unique situation. I don't think that there's going to be immigration options based on what you've suffered. Okay? Unless you're being mistreated at work. Imagine you're a nurse, your client, I don't know. But what if it's the job or something like that? Like we have actually won U visas and T visas for nurses that felt trapped in jobs, where, in the extreme examples where we've won these, we had employers were actually threatening their staff, where if you leave or if you call the authorities, we're going to get you deported because now you're working for us and you don't have immigration status and we know it. And so if you leave or try to, do something else, we'll actually start a process to get you deported, which they can't do, right? They can't do that. Only ICE has the power to start that process. But they do threaten people. That's a form of extortion, which makes a person eligible for a U visa. If they, had anything to do with their immigration process, they might be eligible also for a T visa. We could talk about that if there's anybody listening that's in that situation. All right, good. I think I got another question here, and then I'll wrap up for today. I have a question from Juan. Juan, you say, hello. What happens when the bona fide determination is made if I did not include the EAD application in my U visa case? Thanks so much for this great channel, all the info you provide. All right, Juan, thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that. So what happens? Well, the wisest thing to do is to go ahead and include the work permit request in your U visa case. All right, that's the best advice. That way, when the bona fide determination is made, they can get you the work permit. And if they've already gotten you a work permit, then you can get a work permit under other categories in the future, okay, if you've submitted the I-765 with the application. So the best advice is to go ahead and include it. And if they might, regulations might allow USCIS, I'd have to go back and reread them on this point. USCIS might be allowed to issue the EAD as long as everything else was done in the U visa. I should double check that before saying it live here online. Let me double check that first, and I can issue and upload a small video about that particular question. Like, could the EAD be issued without having submitted an I-765 from the beginning? In my office, we always submit the I-765 with the U visa request. It's just simpler, all right, with the 2 passport style photos, so that they can use that to create and generate your work authorization document, okay? So the best advice, Juan, is to, yes, go ahead and fill out the I-765. Do it correctly. If you need help with it, my office is here. We'd love to help you with that. That is the best advice for how to fill out a U visa properly. Okay, sweet. I also see a question from Quinn, and then I need to wrap up. I need to move into my Spanish episode today. So Quinn, you ask, hello, thank you. You say, hello, I have 2 questions. If someone is qualified for a U visa and needs several waivers, how likely are the waivers to be approved? Second, if a person needs a waiver for using like fraudulently obtained documents, will the people in the home country who helped be implicated, if the U visa is applied for, the person doesn't want to get anyone else into trouble? Okay, yeah, fair questions, very good questions. First of all, if a person is applying for a U visa and needs several waivers, typically what we do is we include them all in one giant waiver packet, rather than, one giant waiver packet including all of the legal issues that need to be waived, okay? And so if you're doing the U visa properly, you include all of the evidence about all inadmissibility issues, all with one. We call it the I-192 waiver, not the I-601. A lot of people get confused about that. It's the I-192 is the proper waiver when it's submitted with a U visa. And just include everything, all inadmissibility issues, okay? Even if there were fraudulently obtained documents, what I would say is, explain that a person received fraudulently obtained documents and apologize for it and ask for a waiver of it, but you don't necessarily need to implicate or accuse anybody that helped you obtain it, all right? Just say, I was helped by a family member, or I was helped by a friend, or I was helped by a aunt or uncle, or whatever the case may be, rather than saying the name and location and more details. You don't have to put that type of detail into the waiver of that type of immigration fraud. If you have questions about how to do that, waivers are complicated, and I highly recommend. A lot of it goes into the nuance, the detail of how to explain it in the declaration, all right, and then how to request the government to forgive you for it. And so I highly, highly recommend having a talented professional attorney or team working with you to waive all of this stuff, so they can help guide you about which documents, which evidence that you need to maximize your chances of getting that waiver approved, because you don't want to go through the whole process and then lose. All right, there you go, that's it. So that's it, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. All right, I really appreciate your time, your tuning in here today. If I haven't answered your question yet, hey, I still send it over. I'll upload it to our YouTube channel. If this was useful, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, please click the notifications bell in YouTube so that you can get additional updates and news. And if you have an immigration case, hey, please give us a call. We are here to help. We would love to help. Okay? Thank you so much. I'm Otis Landerholm, Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream, and we'll see you next week on our next episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.